Well, good morning, everybody. It appears we might have a slight technical problem in that Steve Blagg is out of the office.
No, I'm here, Chairman. We can commence.
Oh, David, Stephen, thank heavens. Right. Can I kick off then?
Yeah, go ahead, Chairman. Good morning to you. Good morning, members.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, members, and welcome to the online meeting of the Definitive Map and Statement of Public Rights of Way Subcommittee. This is a formal public meeting, and the audio feed of this meeting is being broadcast, as of earlier, via the County Council's website. So I would like to welcome any members of the public who are listening to this online. Before we begin, I'd like to confirm who is present and any membership changes. Steve Blagg, Democratic Services Officer, will ask members to indicate their presence after their name is called. Steve, are you okay?
Yeah, that's fine, Chairman. Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. Just to confirm your attendance, can you just please announce your name? Tom Ashton. I'll come back to Tom. David Brailsford.
Present.
Lindsay Corey.
Present.
Ian Fleetwood.
Present.
Chairman, you're here. Robin Renshaw. Robin Renshaw. I can see you. I can see you, Robin. Hilton Spratt.
Steve.
Yeah, he's there. Hilton Spratt.
Yep. Here.
Thank you. And in terms of officers here, Chairman, we've got Karen Bark, the Senior Definitive Map Officer, Countryside. Thank you, Chairman.
Steve, I'm surprised about Tom. Will you be able to track whether he joins us in a few minutes? No worries.
Steve.
Have we missed anybody else?
Yeah.
Who wasn't?
Oh, Chris Miller. Sorry, Chairman. I noticed he's on the scene as well.
I've snuck in.
Chris Miller there. I thought that was...
He's got that map behind him, Chairman.
If during the meeting a member would like to ask a question or raise a point, they're requested to use the chat function and just to write speak as a comment. Hilton, I'd be really grateful if you could monitor that, because rather than me trying to monitor that, I'll come to you and ask who wants to speak, if that's all right, Hilton.
I'll do my best, but I'm not the most IT.
You'll be fine. When members have finished speaking, they should switch their microphones. You should mute their microphone and switch off their video, but remain in the meeting, please. Members are requested to indicate if in chat function if they're leaving the meeting. Hopefully this meeting won't be that long, so we shouldn't need comfort breaks. If members lose connection during the meetings, recommend they end the call using the red phone and rejoin via the meeting link provided. As I say, I've got a dodgy connection and Hilton will chair if I disappear. If a member does lose connection and we're aware of it, I will just pause the meeting. We'll chat about the weather and for a reasonable time, and then start the meeting again, so people can stay. We've got such a small number of councillors. We need to be here most of it. Okay, I'm going to start the meeting now. Steve, apologies for absence, please. Hello.
Steve, you're on mute.
I do beg your pardon, Chairman. I notice I'm on mute. I do beg your pardon. Chairman, just to say, in terms of absentees, Tom Ashton would normally be here, and it's strange that he hasn't notified us, but we can pursue that. In terms of member changes, Chairman, I've been informed by the Chief Executive that Councillor Robin Renshaw has replaced Councillor Sarah Parking on the subcommittee until further notice. Thank you, Chairman.
And thank you. And Robin, I do please accept my apologies. I called you Richard earlier. I have a shocking reputation for getting people's names wrong. It's not deliberate. I do apologise, but thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you.
So are there any... So basically, apart from Tom, we've got no apologies, Steve.
No apologies, Chairman.
Okay. Declaration of councillors' interests. Members are reminded they only need to declare any relevant interests which have not been declared on their declaration of pecuniary interest forms. If any member would like to declare an interest, please indicate in the chat by typing speak. If you do that now, we'll kick off in another 20 seconds.
Steve Blagg is typing something. Chair.
That's fine. I don't think Steve's got anything to declare on this.
Well, the system works anyway.
We'll move to the minutes of the previous meeting. I'm moving the minutes of the meeting of the Definitive Map and Statement of Public Rights of Way Subcommittee held on the 28th of August 2020 as an accurate record. Can I have a seconder to my motion? Hello.
Chairman, it's Councillor Fleetwood. I'm quite happy to second it. I haven't notified in the chat queue, but I think that various people are doing IT issues behind the scenes.
Computers are going mad, Ian. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Can you please indicate for or against or abstain when Steve calls out your name? Steve, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Members, just to shout your names out. Tom Ashton, not here. Lindsay Corey.
For.
Ian Fleetwood.
For.
Colin Matthews.
For.
Robin Renshaw.
Abstain, was not present.
Thank you. Hilton Spratt.
Abstain due to absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Unanimous. Apart from those two abstentions, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Steve. I will sign an electronic copy of the minutes after this meeting closes. Agenda item number 4. This is an appeal against priority given to the DMMO case number 410410, Mumby. Addition of claimed footpath from the A52 Mill Lane southwards, then east to the A52. Karen, would you be kind enough to present the report and to respond to any questions, please?
Yes, I'll do that.
Just before you do start, I'm very familiar with this footpath and actually have had representation from my immediate farming neighbour, who he's 90 now, but can remember skipping down it to pick apples on the apple trees. So as I understand, I've read the report and I think it's well presented. It's over to you now. Thank you.
Yes, this is a report to consider Mumby Parish Council's appeal against the priority allocated, i.e. that is the case hasn't been given any priority up to now. But the Parish Council have appealed on criteria number 1 and 2 of the agreed policy criteria, whereby applications may be given more priority. And that is where there's... Can everyone see... Sorry, before I start, can everyone see the document?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Numbers 1 and 2, criteria 1 is where there's sustained aggression, hostility and ill feeling within a community. This is causing severe disruption to the life of that community, and that in processing the case early, there is a strong likelihood that this will reduce. Criteria number 2 is where there's a significant threat to the route, likely to cause a permanent obstruction, for example, a building, but not, for example, a locked gate or residential fencing. So they're the 2 criteria of the 8 agreed criteria that the Parish Council have appealed under. It's clear that the criteria, the remaining criteria, aren't met by this particular application, and that's I'm sure the Parish Council would agree with that because they haven't appealed under any of the other criteria. There are no specific legal issues that have been identified in relation to the report. And in terms of the council's joint strategic needs analysis, the joint health and wellbeing strategy, my comment would be that public rights of way can contribute to the physical and mental well-being of users by offering opportunities for exercise and enjoyment, and can potentially provide safer routes for travel at no cost to the participant. The claimed route may contribute to this by providing an alternative inter-village route rather than walking alongside the A52. There are no specific legal comments associated with this report, and there are no financial implications associated with this report either. Moving on to a resume of this particular case, an application was made to add a right-of-way to the definitive map on the 7th of January. In the autumn of 2019. On the 7th of January, the County Council appealed against the fact that it hadn't been given any kind of priority, which, given that it hasn't given any kind of priority, it would take many years for the case to be considered, as the County Council currently has a list of approximately 155 outstanding cases to process, of which the first 31 or so are currently active. And the reason the council has a priority system is, of course, because it does have a backlog of applications, which is something that's shared with many other local authorities in the country that have to process modification orders. The evidence submitted in support of the application by the parish council consists of a map showing access by the Red Line Public House, the names of the original purchasers of the old vicarage, a letter from Jonathan Stockdale, the County Council Senior Countryside Officer for the area, regarding maintenance of the route, a letter from Bateman's Breweries regarding the footpath, an old document dated 1932, an old document dated 1932 regarding the sale of part of the vicarage land, and 10 public user evidence forms. I would just point out that because the application isn't currently being processed, the County Council hasn't researched any of these documents to determine whether the council believes that a public right-of-way does exist over the claimed route. The claimed route, figure 3, I'll just scroll down through the document to figure 3. The claimed route is a copy of the definitive map, and it shows that no part of the claimed route is recorded on the definitive map. I don't know whether you can see my cursor on the screen. Can you see my cursor moving around?
Yes.
Yeah. From its northern end, the claimed route goes from the A52 and then goes southwards down to meet an existing definitive public footpath before turning eastwards to run to the A52 through the grounds of the Red Line Public House, which is on the A52 in the area that I'm moving my cursor around. It's perhaps a bit strange that the existing definitive route didn't run right through to the village. In fact, it is recorded on the definitive map as 2 separate footpaths that happen to meet at the same point, which is today on the claimed route. And the definitive footpath isn't shown as running over the claimed route, as you might have expected it to be. The underlying Ordnance Survey mapped line that the definitive map was drawn on does show a path, which tells us nothing about its legal status, but it does show that a route did exist over the northern section of the claimed route, but for some reason it wasn't added to the definitive map. When the council processes the application, we will be carrying out further additional research to determine whether there's any other evidence in favour of making an order or against making an order. But at the moment, it's a bit of a strange issue with the definitive map as to why the link didn't go right through to the road. looking at the photographs of the claimed route, the first photograph that you can see on the screen is a photograph of the claimed route from its northern end. A site visit hasn't been carried out in connection with this appeal because it isn't actually walkable. We've been told by the parish council that it's obstructed by being overgrown. The section from the A52 northwards is overgrown and vehicles have been parked on the route. But I don't suppose the vehicles would cause any impediment to the passage of pedestrians, but the undergrowth apparently does. So these photographs are taken from Google Mapping, Street View images. The next photograph on your screen shows the eastern end of the footpath, the claimed route, where it runs through the grounds of the Red Lion Public House, which is owned by Bateman's Breweries but tenanted. You can see that a gate has been erected which prevents access over the claimed route, and an alternative route has been provided through the car park of the Red Lion House. So people can actually still walk through, but it's on a completely unofficial line and with the goodwill at the moment of the existing tenant. Bateman's Breweries have said that it's up to the tenant to provide an alternative route, and have really left it to the tenant to make all the running on this in this matter. An aerial view taken from Google Mapping shows the whole of the claimed route, and you can see it on your screen now. It's actually marked as a route on Google Maps, but obviously that doesn't mean anything regarding its legal status. And you can see where my cursor is, you can see that a large residential caravan has been put on the claimed route or very close to it, which actually obstructs the claimed route. This is actually lived in by a member of the tenant's family, so it is regarded as a dwelling. East Lindsey District Council gave permission for the caravan to be put there, apparently despite the parish council's objections. This would appear to be before the County Council received the application to add the route to the definitive map, as there's no record of East Lindsey consulting the County Council because of the existence of the claimed route, as they would normally do. So at the moment, if the path was added to the definitive map, it wouldn't be easy to enforce it because it's actually lived in as a dwelling that does have planning permission. The parish council have said that although the route's overgrown, this northern section, north to south, they do plan to clear it in the spring, which would allow passage through. And they're particularly interested in clearing it because they would like people to easily be able to access allotments which are in this area here, somewhere in this area here on the definitive map, with vehicles, because people are finding it hard to take sacks of fertiliser and other heavy bits of allotment equipment to the allotments, as they only have informal access on foot from this eastern end. And the parish council also say that most of the parishioners live at the southern end of the village, so the section through the pub yard is important to them because that's the route that would be mostly accessed, although they haven't said that they would like vehicular access on this line. Regarding the parish council clearing the route, if it was cleared, it would actually allow access on foot over the lane, but it wouldn't provide any kind of legal access until such time as a claim succeeded, if it does. In other words, until such time as a footpath is added to the definitive map. If there is, it can't ever be added as a public vehicular route because the Natural Environment and Rural Communities Act of 2006 actually prevents it becoming a vehicular route, even where it's being used by vehicles, a public vehicular route. So it can only ever be added as a public footpath or a bridleway if there was evidence of horse use, but there is no evidence that horse riders have been using it, so that isn't very likely. So in terms of the parish council wanting access for the allotment from northern end, raising the priority of the claim wouldn't necessarily improve the ability of the parish council to maintain the route, or the county council to maintain the route for vehicles, and wouldn't necessarily improve it if it's on the definitive map, because they've said they intend to clear it anyway. They don't own the land. The land is apparently still owned by the church. And the church sold off adjacent parcels of land to enable development to take place, and you can see the development in the photograph. But they seem to have retained ownership according to the parish council. Obviously, the county council hasn't researched the issue of land ownership yet. But if the church owned the land, it would be open to them to grant permission for people to take vehicles along the route to reach the allotments, if this is what they want to do. The next photograph shows a close-up of the Red Line Public House and the caravan that's been put up. The caravan's shown with a paler roof. There you can see it's quite a big residential caravan. So the claimed route runs to the north of the pub building and then comes somewhere along in the area of the residential caravan. And it would appear that there isn't enough room for actually pedestrians to get past if the claimed route succeeded. But as I say, a site inspection hasn't yet been made. The unofficial line of the footpath passes somewhere through the pub yard and then into this grass paddocky area, which I think may be used as a caravan site. I'm not certain about that, but there are caravans in the photographs. So that's the alternative route that's been provided. The next item on your screen is the exemptions whereby public rights of way can become vehicular routes under the Natural Environment and Rural Communities Act 2006, but none of those apply to this route. That act actually extinguished unrecorded public vehicular rights because it was attempting to provide certainty to landowners and the public as to what rights existed in vehicles, and it had the effect of retaining some vehicular routes where they were considered to be very necessary, but did extinguish other routes. The parish council's letter of appeal sets out the grounds of their appeal, and I'll just read out to their actual contents of the letter. It says, the track to the north is being blocked by the resident who is living in the old glebe by up to 4 vehicles which he advertises for sale. This track is not in his ownership, but there is a right of access into the glebe property. He and the property owner have been asked in writing to remove the vehicles which are obstructing the track. The neighbour on the opposite side of the track is demanding that the parish council do something about it. But until this track is recognised as a footpath, we seem to have no power to do so. The parish council also needs to clear the track for easier access to the village allotments, but it is constantly blocked. The track has been allowed to become overgrown in recent years. The allotment holders using the separate access allowed access through the Red Line yard. Some of the adjacent residents in parklands have extended their boundaries into the track, and one has even built a brick structure which slightly encroaches into the track. The parish council has been awarded a grant through Triton Knoll to clear this track and bring it back into its rightful use. The footpath to the east, which exits between the Red Line and a brick building onto the A52 opposite the church, In respect of that, Bateman's, the public house owners, deny this is a public footpath despite much evidence to the contrary. They are happy for the allotment holders to cross the grassed area through the pub yard to access the village allotments, but only by virtual permission of the public house tenant. Sorry, verbal permission of the public house tenant. Recently, the tenant has applied for and been granted permission to place a mobile home behind the pub, blocking the historic footpath. The mobile home has been fenced round and a gate has been erected to close the footpath between the pub and brick building to the north. East Lindsey District Council gave permission despite parish council protests, presumably as there is no marked footpath on your map. The parish council feels that a sensible compromise here would be if the footpath on exiting the allotments could cross the grassed area of the Red Lion Field directly through the pub yard onto the A52, opposite the church, approximately 30 metres south of the original exit. The parish council has no wish to alienate the Red Lion tenants, as this is a much needed amenity for the village, but we must not lose our right of way. We also fear that more development in this grassed area may be requested, so there is a great sense of urgency to have this matter settled. We hope we have interpreted the details of the criteria listed correctly and that the application can be processed as a matter of urgency. The County Council's response I will read that out to you. I'll just find it in the report. Sorry, I'm just need to find the right part of the report. The appeal has been made by Councillor Jean Bradley, the chairman of Mumby Parish Council. The Parish Council wish to pursue a change of their application's priority, as I've explained, and are relying on criteria 1 and 2 of the prioritisation policy. I should just comment that their appeal has been overlooked as indicated in the report because it was misfiled, but anyway, we're considering it now. It actually, if the committee decide to reprioritise this case, it won't actually have delayed progression of the case by it being misfiled, as it would need to wait for other cases to leave the system before it can be processed. And at the moment, officers are fully committed to existing active cases. I telephoned Councillor Bradley firstly to apologise for the delay in considering the appeal, but in that phone call she gave me further information about the route which isn't included in the appeal, some of which I've explained during this meeting. The letter of appeal doesn't differentiate between the two categories under which they've appealed. It describes how the route provides access to allotments and also provides access to the two public footpaths that terminate at the claimed route's midsection. As I've explained, the reasons for the footpath terminating at the claimed route aren't known to the parish council, and I should add all the county council. The telephone call to Councillor Bradley revealed that the north-south section of the claimed route is owned by the church, who sold off the neighbouring land. The letter describes how this section is obstructed by several vehicles which have been parked by the occupier of an adjacent property. And the exact location of the property isn't known at the moment, as it's not named on Ordnance Survey mapping. Several of the properties in the Parklands development adjacent to this section have encroached upon it by extending their garden fencing, including one where the brick structure has partly obstructed the route. The parish council has has advised that contractors will be used to clear the path in the spring of 2021, irrespective of adjacent householders' objections to a previous attempt to clear the path. And I've explained why vehicular public rights couldn't never be provided over the claimed route. Councillor Bradley verbally explained to me that the most appropriate route of the allotments is from the southern end, as that is where most of the allotment holders live. The Red Lion public house at the southern end is owned by Bateman's Brewery and occupied by a tenant who is allowing an alternative to the claimed route following the granting of permission for the residential caravan. The parish council are concerned that consent for the alternative route could be withdrawn. They have contacted Bateman's, who have said that it is for the tenant to decide on that matter. And the parish council would not object to a diversion of the claimed route to avoid the obstructions. As the caravan is an occupied dwelling, the county council would not be able to enforce its removal should the parish council's application result in the claimed route being recorded on the definitive map. But in that event, countryside services, the countryside services of the county council would be sympathetic to a proposal to divert the path to an alternative route through the pub grounds. Countryside Services understands the concerns of the parish council, but an alternative to the claimed route southern end is in use, and as the parish council plans to clear the northern end of vegetation in the spring, any delay in processing their application will not disadvantage users of the recorded paths or the allotment holders. So the conclusion of officers is that concerning priority policy criteria 1, although the adjacent householder has refused to remove the vehicles that are blocking full access over the claimed route, the parish council has not demonstrated that there is sustained aggression, hostility and ill feeling within the community that is causing severe disruption to the life of that community. Thus, there are currently no implications that the County Council would be in breach of its obligations in respect of Section 17 of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 by any delay in processing the application. Concerning prioritisation policy criteria 2, which is for cases where there is a significant threat to the route likely to cause a permanent obstruction, for example, a building, or in this case, a residential caravan. The claimed route is already obstructed by the residential caravan, therefore this criteria does not apply. The County Council is unlikely to require the caravan's removal whilst it is occupied as a dwelling. It could do so, but it's unlikely to want to do so. If public rights are proved to exist over the claimed route and the caravan remains occupied, the County Council would, as I've just described, seek to divert the claimed route to either the alternative route already provided or to another alignment that proved more appropriate. I would just add one point at this point, which isn't actually in the report. The alternative route that's provided does pass through an area that's used by vehicles, used as a car park to the pub. I did wonder myself whether this meant that the alternative route could be considered less safe than a formally marked out diverted route or the claimed route if it were to be available. But as the Batemans and the tenant will have a duty of care towards use of the car park anyway, I'm not at all certain that it could be argued that the alternative line is unsafe for pedestrians. So that's all I have to say on the matter at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Karen, this appears to be a bit of a mess, really. Not of our making, but the fact that ELDC have granted planning permission on a property obstructing a footpath without taking into account the fact the footpath's there, and that we can't unpick that is very unfortunate. Knowing this situation, actually the epicentre of the village has moved in the last 30 years from around the church at the top of the hill to new developments spreading out towards Helsey and towards Hogsthorpe. So that northern route actually is open. It is passable. It's passable with difficulty. You'd have to have, fairly thorn-proof leggings and a coat on, but you can get through it. But actually, neither of these are footpaths, from what you're telling me. But it would appear that was viewed as a lane within the village. So when the centre of the village was around the church, that was thought of as a road, a village road that went down and was the back route to the pub, to some orchards and to the other footpaths. It's just a mess. But in my own mind, I can't think raising the priority is going to help them very much.
Chairman, sorry, it's Chris.
Chris.
Karen, could you just stop sharing the screen and maybe or share? It's seemingly showing everybody's photo twice. You need to the X in the box just above your cursor.
Oh.
Keep going up.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better. Sorry, I thought minimising it would stop you being able to see it. Obviously not.
Thank you, Chris.
Sorry for the interruption, Chairman.
It's all right.
Chairman, Councillor Corey wants to speak when you've got a minute.
Oh, well, Lindsay, kick off.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just looking at a Google map, which actually does, as Karen said, does show that it's a footpath, but that is, has no legal basis. But I can't see when I'm trying to maximise the Google aerial map, if there's an adequate footpath down the A52. Is this the only way that people on foot can walk through the village without having to walk along Station Road?
There is a footpath beside the A52. I'm sorry, the didn't show that. There's a pavement or a footway beside the A52, but it's true that people living in the north would have to accent, or from going south to the north, the alternative route now is alongside the A52, which is obviously a main road.
It's a busy road, yeah. Councillor Matthews, you're pretty local to this. Is there a feeling that actually it's unsafe to walk down the A52? You've said that the village has moved. Is there a particular local need? I'm an avid walker and cyclist, and I'm kind of quite keen on this. But is there a demand for safety reasons?
Can I just make a comment on that? Sorry, I could just comment on that, but maybe Councillor Matthews. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude and interrupt, but he might want to put his own comments in first.
I'll answer Lindsay, then I'll come back to you, Karen. Thanks ever so much. It is not a pleasant footpath following the A52 because it's actually it's a Z bend. The road folds back on itself twice coming round that corner, and the footway runs around the outside and then crosses over on a blind bend to rejoin below the new development. That is not a pleasant walk, and it does involve crossing the busy road when it's blind to you. And so this is a personal anecdote, but I was out delivering leaflets around there recently, and I was nearly run down, and I'm fairly nimble on my feet and I checked and walked across the road and was taken aback by a car just coming too bloody fast, and I had to hop and skip to get to the other side of the road. So it's not a good footpath around that corner, as though Karen says there is a footpath. However, at the moment there isn't the alternative of the lane because it's not possible easily to walk through that. You wouldn't safely walk through it. But as Karen has said quite right, the bulk of the use of the allotments, which seems to be the point in question, comes from the new housing that is much further down the road towards Hogsthorpe So they use the public footpath that comes across Cumberworth Road and then comes into the car park of the Red Lion, and then they turn left. So yes, it is not a good path around the A52, but there isn't a lot of use of that footpath.
May I come back with a supplementary? As Karen said, that it's the line of the footpath or the line that the footpath is indicated. If that is probably owned by the church, can the parish council not lobby the church to say, is this, as Karen identified, is this a matter for us right now, or is this really a matter for the parish to have a conversation with the church?
Karen, I will come back to you, but I'll just put my 3 halfpence in on that one. There is actually a huge amount of ill feeling about this church lane, because this man is selling cars from a tarmac, from a piece of tarmac outside his house. That is the route of this path. So although
you can see that on Google.
Yeah. So although the parish council have said there is no, blatant aggression, it is really causing a lot of disquiet in the village. But that's not the bit they're contesting, it appears. And then the more serious thing to me, it said, is that is it called Parkway, where they've actually extended their gardens and built brick structures across a path. And again, it is the church land, and it's the church that probably should be raising that. And I think you've absolutely put your finger on it. Lindsay is a way ahead here. The parish council need to get a better relationship with the church and need to work with them to clear that northern route. And we need to focus on aligning the southern route. Karen, over to you. Sorry.
Just a point about the road. Obviously, I'm also aware that the alternative route, rather than the claimed route, is alongside a busy road. I don't think the county council, perhaps it's not for me to say as an officer, but I don't think the county council would want to say that that road is actually dangerous in that location. Usually, as officers, we go by accident statistics from the Road Safety Partnership, etc. But I do take the point that it would be much pleasanter and potentially safer for people to walk a route that wasn't subject to vehicular traffic alongside it. And from a health and safety point of view as well, walking alongside traffic fumes can't ever be a good thing. The second point I'd like to make regarding negotiating with the church, that's absolutely true that the parish council could seek permission from the church to use the route, however the church thought fit, and that would solve the problem. But in the long term, it wouldn't solve the problem of whether public rights existed over the route. The claim so far appears to be based on user evidence. Only 10 forms have been submitted. If examination of those reveals that they're not 10 really good forms, resulting in the claim maybe not succeeding because of a lack of evidence to satisfy the legal process, then the route couldn't be added. So negotiation with the landowner would be the only way of providing a route, because it's very unlikely the county council would ever have the resources to create a new public right of way over the route, rather than proving that one already existed. If there's a delay in processing the claim, obviously people will continue to have to walk through the pub yard while permission for that is given, or use it as a permissive access from the north, and then still have to continue walking along the pavement. There is a chance that a very long delay in processing the case means that evidence could be lost because witnesses can move away, or they can be no longer contactable for some reason. So there is that element to consider, and I don't suppose the A52 will get any quieter. And that's really the only comments I can make on this as an officer.
Thank you.
Chris wanted to speak, and I'm not sure whether Councillor Renshaw did or not. Chris. Sorry, Chairman. Chris Miller.
Thank you, Councillor Spratt. Just a quick question, perhaps more for our esteemed planning and regulation members on this subcommittee. But the selling of vehicles, would that be a planning matter if it's being treated as a business? Councillor Matthews, I'm not sure whether or not it's just private sales that, or whether or not it's actively a business where they're selling vehicles. The chairman seems to have vanished. And you're on mute, Councillor Spratt.
Yes, I do apologise, Chris. He seems to have disappeared.
Yeah. Maybe it was one more for the chairman of the Planning and Regulation Committee, if he knew. Councillor Fleetwood.
Ian? Councillor Fleetwood?
He's on mute, Hilton.
Hello.
He's making a brew.
So we've got the chairman gone. Can we just put you on hold for a sec, Chris? Robin, I think you wanted to speak.
I was just going to refer to the chairman. It was a chat in the chat function to remind the chairman that this is there's a statutory notice which should be read when this is not when the public are excluded. But since no members of the public are present, it should be okay. But it should be read out at the start of that. Actually,
No, Chairman, I saw that from you, and I understood from the advice of the officers that this is a public meeting, and David Hare mentioned that before the meeting started. To be fair, Robin.
Yeah, that's correct, Chairman. That's correct.
Yeah, no problem.
It's not a. We don't exclude the press and public from this meeting, Councillor Wynne.
No.
They just seldom attend.
Confidential matter. That's all. While I'm talking about the matter in hand, it seems as though the county council's intervention is required to regulate a lot of local disquiet about people's encroachment onto the footpath, namely the people in the parklands, and also a chap obviously trading on part of the route as well, which causes obstruction, and it doesn't make for good relations. There seems to be a lack of, this is not just in this area, but over the county as a whole, lack of enforcement of regulation, and just because people can do something, like they can park on a footpath, on a grass verge, and they can obstruct, just because they can do it, I think that's a license to do it forever and a day. And I think we as a county council have got to start being a bit stronger on some of these issues. But as I say, I do know Mumby. I used to work for the county council. I used to go to all the schools in the county. But the chair did raise a very important issue, which Councillor Corey also touched on, and that's the speed of the vehicles. So it's again, the speed of the vehicles is another thing. You know, it doesn't make it a very pleasant area to walk. So it's more important than ever that bridleways and footpaths are maintained for use. But I don't think any early putting it up the order will help this particular issue. There's a lot of other issues that have to be resolved first of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Renshaw. I don't think Colin seems to be back yet. Ian, Councillor Fleetwood, and then Chris.
Thank you for that. The question mark has gone over the car trading facility that's currently being enjoyed at this location. Car sales would be something that would need planning permission of potentially East Lindsey District Council. But to confuse the issue even further, I don't know if the person selling the cars is doing it in a private or a business capacity. And as such, that might then become a trading standards issue for county council if it's one or the other, or de minimis. I don't know how it would be looked at. So it's working, so I'll turn my mic up. I don't know if it's Councillor Matthews coming back.
Thank you, Councillor Fleetwood. I see you're back, Colin. Chris is next to speak.
Thanks, Councillor. It was actually my hand was still up because that was exactly the question I was going to ask Councillor Fleetwood as to whether or not he knew from a planning committee point of view whether or not the sale of cars was something that needed planning or could be dealt with through potential planning enforcement, and maybe advising the parish council that might be an opportunity they might want to explore if we're not going to be processing this public right of way matter any sooner than we're currently scheduled to. So yeah, it comes down to the three issues, it seems to me: the cars on the path, the encroachment via adjacent residences, and the obstruction of the claimed route by the pub, all of which potentially could be dealt with in a different way, if you like. I mean, in terms of the cars could be enforced against and removed as a planning matter. The obstruction or the partial obstruction by the houses, Karen, I don't know if you've seen this or not, or whether or not Councillor Matthews knows, but would that obstruct the whole route, or would there be a sufficient width for a pedestrian?
I haven't seen it. It looks as there obviously is a route between the northern end of the residential caravan and but it looks quite narrow, and presumably I think the chairman of the parish council did tell me there were gas bottles and things associated with the caravan, so they'd obviously be outside the van and maybe obstructing the narrow passageway that appears to be available. I don't know whether it would be wide enough. I don't know whether there's 2 metres, for example, which would be the minimum width that would be acceptable. It is possible that diversion could be processed, I suppose, before the claim is actually processed itself. I mean, you could divert the route as a non-definitive path if the evidence appeared good enough. So I suppose a diversion could be pursued before the claim is actually processed, if the pub agreed, although whether Bateman's and the tenant would agree to that, because obviously they could be encumbered by a legal public footpath through that process when a claim may not otherwise succeed.
Thank you, Karen. So in terms of the encroachment by the householders, it's possible that the public can get past there, and the publican tenant has provided an alternative to the claimed route. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't prioritise a route which the public are still freely using, even if it isn't legally recorded, on the basis that obviously we've got plenty of cases where the public are being stopped from using at all any form of route to get from A to B. So it wouldn't have been. This is why it wasn't considered a priority initially. So the grounds of appeal, I don't know how you all view those, but that's just to give a bit of contextual background as to why we wouldn't necessarily have initially put it in that kind of bracket, even if the A52 wasn't as convenient a route. It did seem that perhaps the claimed route, other than the cars issue, perhaps was actually available, provided that somebody could get down and clear it, which it seems that the parish council are happy to do with the church's permission. Thank you, Councillor Spratt.
Colin, I've got a green thing on the screen where his face was and his phone number. I don't know from a technical point of view what that means. Does anybody know?
He's dialed in as an audio.
Sorry, say again, Steve.
I say, Chairman, I think he'll have to redial in. That's probably his best option. He did say he was having issues right from the start.
He did indeed, yes. So it's the first time I've chaired one of these meetings. In fact, it's the first time I've chaired anything from the county council.
Vice Chairman.
Does anybody else want to speak?
Sorry, Vice Chairman, just a quick one. I've just been informed
Sorry,
that that sign means that Councillor Matthews is trying to dial in.
Right. Does anybody else want to speak? Because obviously we'll have to put this to a vote. But I, as I say, it's the first time I've chaired one of these meetings. I just need a bit of orientation, if I may, Steve, on where we go from here. Because obviously one would want to wait for Colin to come in. But Lindsay, you put up speak again.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Hilton. I think I'm not sure if this helps or not, but I think the suggestions that Chris made about there are alternative routes, no pun intended, that the county council could take to solve these problems, and we don't have to add this to the priority list when there are other footways that are either in danger of being blocked permanently. So, for want of a better phrase, while it's not a no, I think there are other things that we can do as an authority before we can consider this one being prioritised. So that's what I would offer, really. I don't know what my colleagues think.
Would you suggest, Lindsay, that we would basically go back to the parish council and ask them to come up? I mean, they've come up with a compromise and ask them to do a bit more work on a compromise proposal along the lines that you've said, and then come back to us.
Absolutely, yeah. There's the cars. There's talking to the church. I think, yeah, there's other work that they can do first.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
Sorry, Councillor Chairman, just before.
Chris, but I want to come to David, Councillor Brailsford, and then Robin, and your hand's still up, Chris. I don't know if you want to speak or not.
No, it is, and it was to come back on Councillor Corey's comments.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, well, you come first, and then to David. Sorry.
Yeah, the first thing to note is that given that it's virtually, if it hasn't already happened, a year since the application, the Parish Council have a statutory right of appeal to the Secretary of State in terms of the prioritisation. So we would always tell them that anyway. But in doing so, we could also point out that there are other avenues that they could explore. It wouldn't necessarily be a concession or alternative route. It would be more that perhaps they ought to try in the meantime, try the planning authority in terms of the cars, speak to the church about, whether or not they could have even just permissive access on that stretch, and, discussing with the publican what their intentions are and are they still happy for them to walk through the car park and the green space as opposed to on the line of the legal route. But as I say, they do actually have an ability to exercise their statutory right of appeal to the Secretary of State if we determine not to prioritise it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris. I'm coming to David. Councillor Brailsford.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I endorse 100% what the officer Chris Miller's just said, and I'd like to thank Karen for the report. But I go along the lines, and it concerned me that when that northern route is cleared next spring, there was in the report mentioned that vehicles may be used to carry to transport fertiliser down to the allotments. It's not particularly wide, and then, for instance, the person that's selling the cars, if he decides to drive down the lane and park his car there, then how does Mr. Allotment holder get out? I can see conflict there. So I think basically what I'm saying is more or less agreeing with Councillor Corey and Chris and the officer. So I'm going to propose that we leave the order as it is, and the parish council can explore other avenues in the meantime, and things will move on. There's always a problem that local hostilities and the like. I've heard more appeals where there's been much more hostility to a definitive map or lack of one, and we've left them as in the order as listed. So I'm going to move, Chairman, that we leave this in the order as it currently stands, and hopefully the parish council look at the planning authorities and seek the legality of selling vehicles, speak to the church, and get the contractor to trim the northern footpath so that people can access the allotments in that way and still use the alternative route through the pub car park. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, David. Now, just before I ask for a seconder for that, Colin is on the telephone taking in the meeting. I don't know, do you want to take over the chairmanship, Colin, or shall I carry on?
Yeah, Chairman, can we try and let Colin in?
I don't know how to do that. Do you do that, Steve?
Hopefully. Just hold the line. Chairman, I will let him in now. Probably just adjourn the meeting for a couple of minutes, Chairman, while we let him in. That'd be fine.
Okay, fair enough. We'll just adjourn for a moment then. But I am conscious that
done a really good job of separating the meat from the bone, and I think Robin has sort of laid it out, and Chris has laid it out as the way ahead.
Okay. You want me to keep going then?
Yes, please.
Okay, right, fair enough, Colin. So, Councillor Renshaw, just before I come to, I see that Councillor Fleetwood is prepared to second Councillor Brailford's point, so we'll come to that in a moment, but Councillor Renshaw wanted to speak first. Sorry, Robin, about that.
No problem at all. Just wanted to add on, while there's matters that want sorting out by other parties other than the County Council, and that is the local planning authority gave permission, building consent for the parklands, and there was talk about that they've got buildings encroaching on this route. Well, really, it wants the local planning authority wants reminding that they can't tolerate it just because somebody's extended their garden over a track or this route. It's not acceptable. It's absolutely, it needs. The people need reminding of their duties, and it's along with the planning reminder as well. But I will support the motion with that added thing on it.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Colin. I'm eager to pass back to you if you want, Colin. I don't want to appear to usurp you.
You have done a brilliant job, Hilton, and I will take back control. But can I apologise to everybody for this appalling IT mess up? But we've learned how to. I'm on the phone as well, which is why you're hearing feedback. Possibly, I'll turn that off now. Okay, we've had
is now exiting.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
I just turned my phone off because it was causing interference. So I was in the meeting twice. I hope that's not illegal. We've got a motion and we've got a seconder. Please can we take a vote, Steve?
Chairman, I just wonder if we can just recap, just for the benefit of your good selves. I know you were out of the meeting temporarily, Chairman, but it might just be useful for, say, Chris Miller to elaborate for the sake of all members. Obviously, we're not going to move this up the scale, so to speak. This particular application, staying where it is, so that's pretty simple. And then we're going to inform the parish council about the various issues like consulting the church, the parking issues, etc., which obstruct the footpath. I mean, I'll clear with Chris after the meeting, Chairman, but I just wonder if the Vice Chairman could possibly sum up the extra sort of issues raised by members. It seems to me as though it's fairly straightforward, but would you like to do that, Vice Chairman?
Well, I will just say Chris has had to leave the meeting because he's got to go to another meeting. I'm not sure that it's necessary to sum up. I think David put forward a resolution which sounded okay as far as I'm concerned. It covered all the issues. And Robin also mentioned the fact that we can let the parish council know, I think it's fair to say, what they need to do to get this back on track. But I would suspect that Chris and Karen will do that in any event. So if I could ask Councillor Brailsford, David, if you could put your resolution again, or motion, or whatever you want to call it, and then Councillor Fleetwood said he'd second it. I think that's the best way to do it, Steve.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Hilton, can I just interrupt there?
David.
Hilton, can I just interrupt before David goes ahead? You're absolutely right. There is no need to praise here. I heard all this on the phone. Ian was clear about the planning implications and that we need to go back to East Lindsey. We need to work with the church, but basically we need to be offering advice to the parish council as to what they can do and what they can't do. Yeah. And we need to get the enforcement officer from East Lindsey in to make the parish council to make some complaint about the way they've handled that residential commission. David, go ahead and make your proposal, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My proposal simply was that we leave the application exactly where it is. And in the meantime, I mean, I know it's going to be a number of years, but in the meantime, exactly what you said, Colin, that all the other interested parties and local authorities who are involved try and seek some resolution on the issues, outstanding issues. The footpath will be on the northern end, will be cleared in the spring, and that will open up that. And I think the question is, purely from a planning point of view, we've been asked whether we increase the priority of this or not. And my recommendation is that we do not. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine, Chairman. I mean, it sounds, if you just take it in terms of the vote itself, it sounds as though it is unanimous. I don't think there's anybody, Councillor Fleetwood has seconded the motion, and it, correct me if I'm wrong, members, it is unanimous.
Okay, if anybody does want to challenge that, just please put your hand up. I'm accepting it as unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. I think that's the close of business, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
Can I thank you all for your patience with my electronic stuff? Actually,